Thames, ships,
porthole,
horizon,
stars,
black hole,
time, clock, compass, east,
west,
meridian.
On the Line, podcast stories from Greenwich.
The Arctic, along with the Antarctic, is one of the two polar regions of the Earth, and the special situation of the Arctic region gives it some really unique conditions and phenomena. The tilt of the Earth's axis gives it extreme seasons, so in the winter it will have several months of complete darkness, but in the summer there are several months where the sun never dips below the horizon. The cold conditions also produce very strange atmospheric effects, very, very clear, pure atmosphere, and then conversely sometimes you have these clouds of ice crystals which produce very strange effects. And also because the Arctic hosts the magnetic North Pole, the magnetic fields there can produce some very strange atmospheric effects as well. In the Arctic we get a really beautiful atmospheric effect called the aurora, and this occurs in the Arctic and the Antarctic, but in the Arctic we call it the aurora borealis, or the northern lights, and it appears as beautiful patches of shimmering coloured lights in the sky. The aurora is caused ultimately by the sun. There's a stream of particles continuously ejected from the sun called the solar wind, and this interacts with the magnetic field around the Earth. Most of the particles are funneled away from the Earth by the magnetic field, but over the North Pole and the South Pole they're funneled down towards the atmosphere, and when they hit the atmosphere they interact with the molecules of gas and cause them to glow in all of these beautiful colours. The Earth's magnetic field funnels particles from the solar wind down over the North Pole, and so the aurorae generally appear in a ring around the North Pole of the Earth. So good places to see the aurora are in countries that are up near the Arctic Circle, so Norway, Sweden, Finland, Canada, places like that. But when the sun is very active and pumps out a lot of solar wind, the auroral ring actually can spread out from the North Pole, and so it's possible sometimes to see the aurora from countries like Scotland, Northern Britain, places like that as well. Explorers of the high Arctic witnessed some of these strange atmospheric effects, and Gerrit de Veer, the discoverer of Svalbard, actually reported seeing what we now call sundogs, which are a very beautiful and strange effect. They can occur anywhere on Earth, but they're most common at high latitudes because they're produced by a combination of the sunlight reflecting off ice crystals and the sun at a low angle. So you can see these in the Arctic. You get this strange effect of the sun, but then with two images of the sun at about 22 degrees on either side, so effectively three suns in a row. Very strange thing to see, must have made a big impression on him.
And when the ship was about south-southeast, we saw a strange sight in the element, for on each side of the sun there was another sun, and two rainbows that passed clear through the three suns, and then two rainbows more, the one compassing around the suns, the other was through the great middle.
But the atmospheric conditions and the combination of a low sun and ice crystals also produce other effects. You can get these white arcs and halos of sunlight appearing across the sky, which also look very beautiful. And the clear atmospheric conditions and the ice crystals can also produce mirages where something below the horizon, an image of it appears in front of the horizon, and so you see an image of something which actually isn't where it looks like it should be. We do have accounts in our archives from whaling captain William Scoresby, who described what he saw and gave a really amazing account.
Presently the scene was changed. The mountains along the whole coast assumed the most fantastic forms. The appearance of castles with lofty spires, towers and battlements would in a few minutes be converted to a vast arch or romantic bridge. These varied and sometimes beautiful metamorphoses naturally suggested the reality of fairy descriptions, for the air was perfectly transparent, the contrast of the snow and the rocks was quite distinct.
The museum sent Matt Clark, an artist, up to the Arctic as part of a climate change monitoring expedition, and he was able to witness some of the really amazing phenomena that you can see up there. Because the ice tends to absorb the red part of sunlight, you get these beautiful blue and turquoise colours predominating as a sort of predominant palette.
For more on the line, visit nmm.ac.uk/explore.